really know about this book is that it has black witches in it. That's all I know, but that's all I really needed to know to pick it up. I'm just a slow reader, and I feel like there should be a support group for that in this booktube space. Paranormal shit, just, I don't like fucking with it, okay? I don't. Hi everyone, I'm Bria and welcome back to my channel, Tales of Tales. So in today's vlog, I will be reading 3 horror/dark fantasy books by Black authors. It's currently like mid-October and I'm just in like a spooky mood. And I just really had a couple of like spooky books on my TBR and like on my wish list that I just really wanted to get to. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading in this video. But the first book that I'm reading for this vlog is Ring Shout by Djeli Clark. So I haven't read anything by this author previously, but I have heard a couple people talk about him and they like really love him. So this book is fairly short. It's only about 180 pages and I'm already about 80 pages in. These characters are essentially tasked to fight these like monsters, and these monsters are formed from clan members who have like let the hate they have for people like really like seep into like their being and like who they are, and it ends up turning them into these monsters. And so one thing I can say about this book so far is that there's obviously going to be some social commentary, obviously about the past, but I definitely think there's going to be some like parallels to you know, the current time that we're living in. Very interested to keep reading. Again, like I said, it's very short, so hopefully if I don't finish this tonight, I can at least get another like good 50 pages in, and then I can finish tomorrow, and then I will be back with an update on my final thoughts and ratings and all that good stuff. Hi, so I finished Ring Shout. It's been a few days, but I finished it. I think it took me a little while to get through it, only because there were a lot of like history references in here actually that I wanted to research on the side to make sure that I was like getting all of the aspects of the book that like were intended. So I'll give another quick synopsis of the book because I feel like I did a horrible job in the last clip. So Ring Shout follows these women, these black women who are called to fight off these monsters, and these monsters are created and originate from clan members who have like this hate that's just like festering inside of them, and it turns them into literal monsters. So it's these women's job to like go fight them off and like protect their people. And so this book is set in like 1915, I think, but the parallels to today and like the social commentary that can still be relevant to today, it's sad. Really, it's actually pretty sad, but it's relevant. One of the main like topics of this book is about evil and hate and like where it stems from, especially people who are racist or people who, you know, just like have this hate against marginalized groups of people. And, you know, as a black person, I know I have that thought sometimes where I'm like, well, what did we do to like deserve this hate that's being like directed towards us? Like, what did we do to you for you to like hate us so much? And there's a passage in this book that says, you know, the hate really is baseless, and that it stems from inadequacies and insecurities on these people's part, even though they already are the ones in power. There's a lot of history references in this book, but I want to be more specific in saying there is a lot of African American history references in this book that, even though I'm African American, that I didn't even know of. So it was like a good eye opener for me to go look up some of like what this book was talking about. But aside from like the history references and like, you know, the social commentary, this book It's described as like a dark fantasy, but there were moments that read like horror. Like it was some of the imagery of like the monsters and like the monsters' interactions with these women were just like, it just like gave me the shivers. It was Definitely recommend this book. I think it's gonna make some people uncomfortable, but I think it's like an uncomfortable that like people need to read. So I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. The only thing is that I wish it was longer. Like I could see this whole world being like a series, but I do appreciate that it was short and I was still satisfied at the end of it, if that makes sense. It did read like a movie to me, which is why I think I was still satisfied at the end, because each chapter was kind of like a movie scene and I could see that in my head as I was reading. And I was like, this could easily be made into like a Netflix movie or just like a limited series. Like I could definitely see that, and I could see a lot of people getting a lot out of it. So there's 2 more books I'm gonna read in this vlog, and that is The Year of the Witching and When the Reckoning Comes. So I decided to pick up The Year of the Witching first. All I really know about this book is that it has black witches in it. That's all I know, but that's all I really needed to know to pick it up. I started this last night and I'm on chapter 3, so I'm really not that far into this book at all. So I'll try to come back when I like actually have something to say. Okay, hi. So I am a little bit more than halfway through The Year of the Witching, and I realized that I didn't even really give you guys an overview of like what it's about. So it follows this girl that lives, I want to call it like a settlement, and this girl, she has like a particular outlook because she's mixed race, and in this story that plays in more than just like a race thing. It also plays into essentially like a class thing too, because everybody that's in the in of the settlement is white, and then people who are called, they're either called like outsiders or like people from the outskirts are black and closer to her skin tone. So she's treated different. In the story, she also finds out that her mom has a connection to these witches, and she kind of is going on this journey to figure out like what the connection is and like what that means for her. There's a dark forest involved. Like I said, there are witches involved. There's a secret diary involved. There's a lot going on. But my thoughts of it so far, so I had like this like weird like mix of emotions, because it's easy for me to read, but there got to a point where I was like, this is so slow. It's kind of just giving you a lot of backstory, and it's giving you, you know, to me just like a lot of like transition, I guess. And at first I was like, oh man, like this, I don't know how I'm feeling about it. But now that I'm getting kind of used to the details of the book, and like as I'm reading, I am starting to enjoy that everything isn't happening like so fast. So I'm curious to know like how this is going to end, and if it's going to end in a way that's going to require a sequel. I have about 150 pages left of this book, so I'm hoping that I can possibly finish it today. But like I'm also just being realistic of like how my reading life works. I don't know if that's gonna happen. And if I've already been reading this for like maybe like 4 or 5 days, I guess. You're just really gonna learn very quickly on this channel. I am not a fast reader. And you know, I really felt a way about that at first joining like the booktube space, but I feel like there should be a space for people who don't read like a bajillion books a month, and I wish that I could be that type of person, but I'm just not. When the reading mood strikes me, it strikes me and we're good to go. But then there are other times where, you know, life happens and I just don't feel like reading. or, you know, life happens and I'm like, I'm gonna read, and then I get on TikTok or something, you know, and that's just on me. I probably just need to make a better reading schedule as well. But even when I do, it can be like I'll read for an hour a night, but I know some people can read, you know, a couple pages a minute, and that's not me. For me to comprehend and me to really be involved in the story, I'm just a slow reader, and I feel like there should be a support group for that in this booktube space. So the fact that I said that I was actually going to try to finish this last night and I actually did it comes as a surprise to me. I know you guys don't know me that well yet, but it's shocking. But I think part of the reason that I could do that was because the book actually really picked up for me. I know in the last clip I mentioned that it was kind of slow going at the beginning, at least in my opinion. But I hit a point last night where we took off, and it really just made the entire book and the entire reading experience just a lot more enjoyable for me. And so one thing that I'll mention is that the romance in here is a very much so a slow burn, which I actually really enjoyed. I got enough detail where I was like really rooting for them, you know, but it wasn't the main focus of the story. I know when I was talking about Ring Shao, I was like, it read a little bit more like horror than I thought it would, and I would say it's the reverse for this. So this is technically labeled as like a dark fantasy or like a horror fantasy, and I didn't really get so much horror vibes. I got more like dark fantasy vibes. Like there was some eeriness to it. There was some like kind of grotesque things when you think about some of like the imagery and stuff, but I didn't feel like a horror vibe. But I also haven't read that many horror books, so I'm not sure if that's just like a personal opinion of like what I imagined, like based on what I imagined horror to be, or if this is not really just like hitting the horror genre. I don't know. I'm not a professional. So overall, I'd give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and the way that it ended, it sounds like there might be a sequel. And if there's a sequel, I will definitely pick it up. Okay, so up next, I'm reading When the Reckoning Comes. I don't know why I said it like that. I'm reading When the Reckoning Comes, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I actually have no idea what this book is about. I just read the back and I'm still not completely sure. I read The South and I read A Plantation, and I know this is supposed to be horror, so I can imagine where this is gonna go. A lot of horrors happened in Plantation, so you know, we'll see. I know it ain't the stallion. TikTok is taking over my life, and you know what, I'm not really that mad at it because it's so fun. Also, that Keke Palmer noise just it's just stuck in my head every single second. Anytime someone pops up on a work meeting, I'm like, I know it ain't the stallion. You know it's your girl. My old coworkers once told me that my energy reminded her of Keke Palmer, and like honestly, that's probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten. Anywho, why we're here is to talk about the books. I'm halfway through When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen, and about halfway through, and good news, I now know what this book is about. In this book, there are 3 main characters, and they were like best friends in childhood, but not so much like in their adult life. So we're following 2 timelines, like one in the present and then one when they were younger, when they were friends. So in the present, one of the friends is getting married, and she invites the other 2 to the wedding, but they're kind of confused of like, well, we haven't talked in like 20 years. Why are you inviting me to this wedding? So the wedding that she's having is also being held at this old plantation. So I guess some other context is that the friend who has the wedding is white and the other two friends are black. It is important context to have here. But not only are they skeptical about going because it's a plantation, but also when they were younger, an incident happened at the house or like on the land of where the plantation is, and some spooky things happened. And none of them want to really talk about what happened back then. This book is feeling a little bit creepier than I was like originally expecting. And maybe this one is seeming a little creepier to me compared to the other two books that I've read in this video, because I'm getting the feeling that it's like some paranormal spirit shit is going on, and like paranormal shit just, I don't like fucking with it, okay? I don't. I mean, it's interesting to read about and I know it's gonna creep me out, but like, it's just a different level of spooky for me. I'm interested to see like where the real twist comes in for this, because it's setting it up like I want to compare it to something, but I'm not sure if that's like the direction that it's gonna go. I don't trust none of the white people in this book. And I'm gonna leave it at that for right now. I'm gonna just leave it at that. I, for one, am happy that Starbucks is officially in holiday season. Okay, before I talk about the books, because again, I don't know if y'all care about my real life or you just want me to talk about the fucking books, but I'm gonna interject with a small story here. So yesterday I had the hankering for some hot chocolate, and so I'm driving around town going to my normal Starbucks and it's closed, but it's like during normal operating hours. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go to another one, also closed. And then I go to another one, closed again. So I'm upset yesterday. So today I was on a mission to actually go get my Starbucks. But I'm realizing maybe they closed because they were switching over the menu to the holiday stuff. So yay me. Finally finished When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. Halfway through, I was intrigued. I wanted to know what was going on, but I just like wasn't really sure where the story was going, what the point of the story was. But let me tell you, that back half of the book, it did it for me. All right. There were, oh my God, I'm so popular. What's going on? So the back half of this book just really kicked it into gear for me. So I know I had mentioned that this had the feelings of horror, even though nothing like truly horrific had happened yet. But let me tell you, there's one scene in this book where I literally had to put the book down and like gag. Even thinking about it right now like makes my stomach turn a little bit. And I think what makes it even worse is because it revolves around some of the actions that took place around like slavery. And you know, I'm just gonna say it. Slavery was a lot worse than what the history books made it seem. There are a lot of things that were left out, a lot of actions that people didn't want to, you know, admit and take accountability for. One of my favorite books ever is Kindred by Octavia Butler. And as I was reading it, the stories are completely different, but I was seeing some like similarities and I was like, this feels like Kindred. And it's funny because right before like I started filming this clip, I was just reading the back of the book again, and there's actually a blurb on the back that kind of touches on Kindred too. So I'll just read it to you because I feel like it describes what I was feeling better than what I could probably do. So I'll just read the back. It says, "This is a novel like Octavia Butler's Kindred that reminds its readers that as long as people don't acknowledge how much of the past still shapes the present, it will bring its whips, its hatchets, and its fists to make us learn." and boy did it. Overall, I definitely enjoyed the experience. I will say though, because the book is so short, there were some moments where I just felt like we were kind of just like jumping around, where it felt like, well, how did the character know this information? Or they were just thinking one way and now their entire frame of thinking is like completely different, like within the same page. So that was a little off-putting to me, but by the end, all of the decisions made sense to me. But overall, I definitely enjoyed this book and I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars. All right, so let's wrap this vlog up. So all 3 of these books I would recommend if you are in the mood for some dark fantasy or horror. 4 stars all around, but some of the better or best books I've read all year, so definitely recommend it. One thing I will note though is that I read these books back to back to back, and I don't know if I'd recommend that for most people, especially Black people, because these books like mirror like real traumas that have happened to people in the past. So you know, that can be very draining and it can be tiring. So yeah, individually all the books are good. Maybe just put some space in between them when you read them. But overall, I had a very pleasant reading experience. So if you guys have made it this far, you know the deal. I appreciate you so much. And you're my favorite. And I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.